Hello, my name's Ben from Stacey Solutions, and today we're going to be looking at these again. So those of you who follow the channel will know that a few weeks ago I made a video about in-ear monitors. I did a review of some of the ones that I've used for some time, and I made a recommendation then for the SoundMagic E11 headphones. I love them, they're great headphones, I use them all the time, but having made that last video, I went and did a bit more research into them and discovered that at the back end of last year, they actually released the E11, the next version of them. So having done the review of the E10s, I thought it would make sense to get a pair of the 11s and do a review of these as well. So today I've got with me the SoundMagic E11s, which I'm going to do a review on. I've been using those for the last few weeks, and I'll let you know my thoughts on those. Another set of headphones that I've wanted to do a review on are KZ in-ear monitors. Now, again, loads of people will know these, loads of people use these. These are ones that you look online, you'll find loads of reviews and loads of people saying how great these are. So I thought I'd get myself a pair of these. These are the KSTs, dual driver in-ear monitors. They are relatively inexpensive. In fact, of all the headphones that I've reviewed so far, these are the cheapest. These were less than 20 quid. Again, I bought them on Amazon. So really cheap, but they're a dual driver in-ear monitor, and as I say, loads of people use them, loads of people like them, and they get really good reviews online. So I thought I would, while we're looking at sort of budget in-ear monitors and doing a review of budget in-ear monitors, I would do one where we're going to do a comparison between the new SoundMagic E11s as well as the KZ KSTs. Okay, so I'm going to kick off today with an unboxing video, and I've got here a pair of the KZ ZST in-ear monitors. Now these are, the KZ in-ear monitors are one that you see quite a lot online, and quite a lot of people use them, and they get really good reviews. But the thing about them is they're just incredibly cheap. So I thought I'd get hold of a pair of these and we can have a look at them. I'm going to try them out, test them to the other headphones that we've already discussed, and just see how they compare and how they hold up. So as I say, we're going to start off with an unboxing video. So first of all, I quite like the packaging. It's quite nice, it's very simple, but I guess that's part of how they managed to keep the costs down for something like this. But I really like the fact that on the back it's just got all the specifications on here. So I've got the frequency response, I've got the size of the connector, impedance, sensitivity, quite a lot of helpful information just straight away on the back, which is great. Open up the box and you've got a piece of clear plastic here that's holding this in. There we go. So a little plastic screen over the top. Various instructions, several replacement tips for those there. And then, so one of the things that's really impressive about these is they've got a lot of pro features, and one of them is the detachable cables. So here are the cable. So if you did break these, you could just replace the cable rather than replacing the whole thing. But you know, this set of headphones, it cost me less than 20 quid. So really quite cheap headphones, and they're dual driver. They come with an armature driver. So it says it's got a dynamic driver and a balanced armature driver. It doesn't actually specify which one's which, but I would assume that the dynamic driver is for the low frequencies and the balanced armature for the higher frequencies. As I've said before, the balanced armature drivers are higher accuracy. I would expect to have the higher accuracy driver on the high frequencies, so you get some really high accuracy on your high frequencies, and then the dynamic driver for the low frequencies where the accuracy is less of an issue. So with something like this, that's how I would expect them to be working, and I'm fairly certain that's how they are working. So we've got the cable, just a little wire there holding it together, and then the actual earbuds themselves, which are proving a bit difficult to get out. So yeah, quite a nice little design. I don't know whether you can see this. This is, I think they called it the carbon design or something. So just a little kind of carbon effect detail on the outside there, but quite a nice shape, quite a nice design, fairly reasonable looking headphones. Then obviously the key thing you need to make sure you do with these is that you work out which one's left and which one's right. And I'm just looking to see whether it actually says anywhere on here which one's which. I can't actually see that it does. They don't seem to actually indicate on the headphones themselves which way around they are. But if you're used to using these, you can tell which way they are by the shape. So they would go that way round, but there's not actually any indication on there to tell that. I guess the way they come out of the packet is left on the left and right on the right. So you'd have to make sure you don't get those mixed up if you weren't sure. And then you need to then make sure you do find out on the cables which one's the right and which one's the left, and the cable does actually have a very small indicator on there which way around they are. So I can attach the cable and just try and make sure I get this the right way around as well. I think it needs to go that way, presumably. And the left-hand side like that. I think I might have done one of those the wrong way around actually. I think that one probably needs to go that way. Kind of tricky to work out which way around these need to go actually. There we go, I think it's like that. Yes, okay. Great, okay, so that's them assembled. Now let's try them out. Okay, so I'm going to do the review now then between these two. So I've got the SoundMagic E11s, which is the updated version of the one that I did last time. And then the KZ KSTs, which is this new in-ear monitor. I've not tried these before until today, so I've just been taking a bit of time to test these two out. So I'm going to do the review across these two so you can do a bit of a comparison between these. And then I'll make some recommendations based on the video that I did before and these here as well, and I'll let you know what my thoughts are. So first of all, let's start with the KZs. I was impressed. I thought the first time I put them on and listened to them, I thought they sounded pretty good. They're certainly you could hear the balanced armature driver and the high frequencies. The accuracy and the detail on those high frequencies was great. There's so much clarity, really crisp, really clean, really punchy, kind of bright sounding top end. And the low end as well, that you could tell there was that extension of the frequencies because there's the two drivers in here. You could really tell that there was a lot more frequency available. So the low frequency extension, there was a lot, it went down a lot lower into the low frequencies, and the high frequencies likewise pushed up right into the high frequencies as well. So overall, pretty reasonable headphones, and for less than 20 quid, you really don't think you can complain much. However, there were a couple of negatives. First of all, the mid-range I thought was particularly lacking in these. I think they are a bit hollow and a bit empty in the mid-range. So they've got the crisp detail at the top, and yes, they've got the extension down into the low frequencies in the bottom, but they were definitely lacking in the mid-range. And I think for a set of in-ear monitors, that's a big problem, particularly if you're like a vocalist. You know, a lot of the vocal frequencies are going to be sat in the middle. So if you're singing or if you're playing guitar, I would seriously consider whether you would want to go for something like this, because those frequencies that you want, those mid frequencies, just aren't really there in these. They're just a little bit light in the mid. So I'd say probably they would work well for like a drum kit maybe. You've got a lot of clarity on your cymbals. You've got the low frequencies for bass drum and toms and stuff. It might be a bit hollow sounding in the middle, but probably for a drum kit you could get away with that. things like vocals and guitars, keyboards, that sort of stuff. Personally, I would probably stay away from these. Another big plus for these, though, actually was comfort. They're very comfortable to wear, and I really like the cable. I don't know what this is called, but the curved cable. The cable here that's shaped to go around your ear makes it really comfortable and really easy to wear these. So another issue with these, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this, but they feel a bit short. If you look at the cable compared to the SoundMagic E10s, there's not a lot of difference between the two actually when you look at the two like that. SoundMagic E10s and the KZs, not a vast amount of difference, but actually you could really tell that they felt short. They felt like you were restricted. You didn't have a lot of movement, which again is something to consider if you're going to use these for in-ear monitoring on a stage or something. You need to think about the movement that they allow. And they just felt that bit more restricted and that bit a bit more tight on the cable length. So that's the KZs. So jumping over back to the SoundMagic E11s then. So if you look at the specifications on these, what SoundMagic say is that they've managed to extend the frequency range on these from the E10s, and I would say that they probably have. There is probably a little bit more bass in these than there is in the E10s. Now I've been using these for a few weeks now actually, so I've given them a really good kind of field test as it were, and I think overall I think they sound good, they sound great. I've got no issues with them particularly. As I say, they have extended that frequency range a little bit, so there's a bit more low frequency in them and a bit more high frequency in them. I think that's come as a bit of an expense in the mid frequencies. I think there's just a little bit lacking in the mid frequencies, but it's not to the extent of the KZs. The KZs, it was really noticeable. There's just a real hollow dip in the middle. Whereas the SoundMagic, I think, is much more natural, much smoother, much fuller sound through the frequency range. They don't go as low as the KZs. They possibly don't go as high as the KZs, but for the frequencies they cover in the middle, it's much flatter, much more even, much more balanced sound throughout the range. As I say, I think possibly the E10s are possibly slightly more so, although you do lose a little bit more on the extension, and that's always going to be what you're going to find with a single driver. Where these are a single driver, the KZs are a dual driver headphone. These are a single driver headphone, and a single driver is always going to struggle in producing a range of frequencies and doing it evenly. Either you're going to have to you extend it out to the low and to the high frequencies, but you lose out in the middle, or you keep it flat and even, but you lose the extent of the range. And that's always going to be the battle that you're going to find with a single driver. So I'm not all that surprised that the E10s and the E11s, there's a bit more extension on the E11s, but there's also a little bit less in the mid-range on them. But I have to say, I think overall, when I compare them to the KZs, there's no comparison really. The mids in the SoundMagic are just far, far superior. Possibly there's a very slight hole, but it's so slight, it's really not worth bothering with. There's you know, they're very good, very even, very natural. Yes, you lose that extension, but it stays pretty even throughout the range. Downsides of the E11s, with the E10s, there was a nice little coloured ring around the bottom of the headphone, so you could tell which one was right and left. These ones, it is written on there right and left, but it's very hard to see. It's not very clear, not very obvious which way around they go. It's quite difficult to see that, and I think I'm probably going to end up having to write something on in pen so I can see which way around they are, because it is quite difficult to tell right from left on them. They haven't got the comfortable ear hook wire thing which the KZs have. As I say, I really like that. That made them really comfortable to wear. These don't have that, which was a bit of a downside to them. They've also done this thing with the plug, and again, I don't know whether you can see this on here. They've put this sort of 45-degree cable coming out of here. I couldn't really tell why they'd done it. It didn't really seem to bring anything to me. It didn't seem to add anything to them. And there's been one or two times where it's actually been a bit more awkward. They does sort of catch a little bit more easily, particularly if you're just plugging it into a, say, a phone headphone socket on your mobile. Putting it in and out of your pocket just kind of seemed to make them catch a bit more. It's a minor point really, but it was just something that I just didn't quite know why they'd changed that, but they have. So coming to an overall recommendation, I think I would have to say I would still stick with the SoundMagic myself. I think the SoundMagic E10s and the SoundMagic E11s are superb. I don't want to put down the KZs too much because I think they are a great option, and I know a lot of people like them and a lot of people use them and a lot of people really rate them. And I can see why. I think there is a lot of benefit to them. As I say, certainly on the extension, if you're doing anything where you need the low frequencies and the high frequencies, a lot of crisp, a lot of clarity in the tops, and that real extension down into the lows. KZs do that really, really well. But for me, I think that lack of mid frequencies in this was disappointing. For a dual driver speaker, it should have been able to get a fairly even extension throughout the range, as well as having the extended bass and extended high frequencies. And so the fact that it was just so hollow in the middle, I was disappointed with that. And for me, I would stick with the SoundMagic because for me, when I'm monitoring, things like vocals and guitars and keyboards are really key to me to being able to hear those things, and I want to have that front and center in the mix. I don't want to be losing any of those mid frequencies. So SoundMagics would get it for me. SoundMagic E10 versus SoundMagic E11. I can't say I've got a particularly strong view either way on those. They both were great. They both sound brilliant. I think if I was really pushed, I would probably say save your money and go with the E10s. They're a little bit cheaper. There's not a lot in it, but I would say probably the E10s, just because, again, it's just that little bit flatter. But you know what, if you want the extra extension, the E11s, they're still pretty good. There's still a pretty reasonable mid-range there. And they still sound great. So for me, E10s, E11s, there's not a lot between the two, but I would go down that route rather than the KZs. Okay, so thank you for watching. I hope you found that helpful. We've got a new website coming. I'm going to put the link in the description below so you can come over to our website. You'll find all our contact details on there if you want to get in touch. As I say, if you want any help, if you've got any questions about in-ear monitors, anything like that, please let me know. Please get back to me. Please join the conversation below. Let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts. Please do. We would love to help, and hopefully we'll see you soon.